Thanks to the universal designated hitter rule, as well as the automatic runner on second base and extra innings rule, we've lost the art of a position player pitching in dire straits. Yes, I'm well aware that position players pitching are at an all-time high, but it's a different scenario nowadays. In today's game, position players really only take the mound when the game is an absolute blowout, in order to avoid using a reliever in a game out of reach. Occasionally, during long extra inning games in the past, teams will have used all available pitchers and are then forced to turn to a position player. While not extinct technically, long gone are the days where a position player would come in to pitch in a tied game only when absolutely necessary. With that being said, there are still countless number of games from the past where that very situation occurred. A non-pitcher being called in to pitch with the game on the line simply because the pitching staff has been exhausted. I'm sure you can imagine that in the vast majority of cases, when a position player does have to take the mound, it doesn't end well. In the past 30 seasons, there have only been 21 occurrences of a team having a position player come in to pitch in extra innings. Of those 21 instances, teams have gone 7-14. To nobody's surprise, if a team sends out a position player to pitch in a tied game in extra innings, odds are they're gonna lose. However, they don't always lose, and one of those 7 wins was an amazing game to say the least. This is the story of how a catcher was the winning pitcher in an absolute thriller of a game. It was 24 years and 1 day ago on August 22nd, 2000, when the Atlanta Braves were on the road to face the Colorado Rockies. With under 6 weeks left in the season, this game was important for both teams for 2 wildly different reasons. The Braves had a slim 2.5 game lead over the New York Mets for the East Division, so naturally, they needed every win they could get to stay in first place. The Rockies, on the other hand, were 10 games out of a playoff spot with their season all but over with. While their odds for a postseason appearance were slim, there was one notable event going on with Colorado, and that involved their first baseman Todd Helton. Entering this game, Helton had a .398 batting average on the season, and was making a serious push to be the first player to hit 400 since Ted Williams in 1941. Getting to the game itself, let's just say it was a classic Coors Field offensive battle between these two clubs. Masato Yoshi took the mound for Colorado and threw a scoreless top of the first. Starting for Atlanta was John Perkett, and due up third in the inning was Todd Helton. Should he get a hit in his first at-bat, his average would rise to an even 400. But he swung on the first pitch and flew out to center field for the out. Despite that, the Rockies rallied and scored 2 runs off a triple from Todd Walker to take the early lead. They added to that total in the second inning when Juan Pierre hit a sacrifice fly to drive home Todd Hollinsworth and go ahead 3-0 after 2. The Braves would chip away at that score the following inning, where BJ Surhoff hit a sacrifice fly of his own to drive in Andrew Jones for the first Atlanta run of the game. That would be it for the Braves that inning, and leading off the bottom half of the third, Helton grounded out in his second at-bat in what would be a scoreless frame for the Rockies. 1 inning later would Colorado blow the game wide open. With runners on the corners and no outs, Ben Patrick hit a slow roller down the third baseline and would beat it out for a hit, driving in a run in the process. 3 batters later, Nafi Perez doubled into the right center field gap to drive home a pair, and suddenly, the Rockies took a commanding 6-1 lead. Todd Helton followed Perez, but he drew a walk, and once the inning concluded, the score stood 6-1 heading into the 5th. With 1 out in the 5th, Andrew Jones hit a home run the opposite way to start an Atlanta rally. 3 straight hits followed that homer, capped by an RBI single from Andres Galarraga. 3 runs by the Braves to make it a 6-4 game. The score would remain that way as the game headed to the top of the 7th. Mike DeJean came out of the bullpen for Colorado and allowed a solo home run to Chipper Jones to pull Atlanta within 1. DeJean would then allow a walk and a single to put runners on the corners with 1 out. Following that, Colorado manager Buddy Bell made a pitching change and brought in Jose Jimenez from the bullpen. Here is where a bizarre set of sequences occur. Actually, it occurred right before Jimenez was summoned from the bullpen. Immediately following the single that put runners on the corners, the Coors Field scoreboard displayed 2 outs rather than 1. Why? Honestly, your guess is as good as mine. I couldn't find any information about it, but I have a theory. Right before Andres Galarraga singled, BJ Surhoff stole second base. We can see from the replay he was clearly out, but the umpire ruled safe. I'm thinking the scoreboard operator thought he was out and changed it to 2 outs even though there was only 1. Why does this matter? Well, on Jose Jimenez's first pitch to Brian Jordan, Jordan hit a liner right back to the mound where Jimenez made the catch. Galarraga was off the first base bag and the Rockies had an easy double play right in front of them. However, Jimenez was looking at the scoreboard, which again read 2 outs rather than 1. Once he realized there were now only 2 outs, Galarraga was able to get back in time. The broadcast audio isn't the best, but we can clearly hear them say how Jimenez was looking at the scoreboard.
He's looking at the scoreboard, Skip. He thought that was the last out. That scoreboard we showed you a minute ago said 2 outs. That's what he was going by.
Here's an angle of the play showing the runner nearly halfway down the line by the time Jimenez composed himself. That would be extremely costly, as it kept the inning alive, where the next batter, Javi Lopez, beat out an infield single to drive home the runner on third to tie the game. The Rockies should have still had the lead heading to the bottom of the 7th, but thanks to an incorrect scoreboard, the Braves erased a 5-run deficit. Colorado failed to score in the bottom of the 7th, and both teams went down to order in the 8th inning, so the game remained tied at 6 heading to the 9th. In between then, Wood Helton failed to get a hit again, being 0 for 3 so far. The Rockies brought in Gabe White to pitch the 9th inning, and with 2 on and 1 out, he induced a clutch double play to keep the Braves from scoring. In the bottom half, the bases were loaded with 2 outs for Jeffrey Hammonds, but reliever Kerry Lightenberg got him to fly out to right to end the threat, forcing extra innings. Here is also where things get interesting. Colorado had used 4 pitchers through the first 9 innings. The 5th pitcher for the club started the 10th inning, but after allowing 2 base runners, he was replaced by another reliever. This pitcher was Bobby Chenard, who would get the final 2 outs without allowing a run. After failing to score in the bottom half, the Rockies went to the bullpen again to start the 11th. Mike Myers was the new pitcher for Colorado, and he induced a groundout and strikeout for 2 quick outs. Despite just 9 pitches thrown, Buddy Bell decided to make a double switch here. Butch Husky replaced Todd Hollinsworth in left field, and in to pitch was John Wasden, the 8th pitcher of the night. Among the 8 pitchers so far for Colorado, Wasden's was the most eventful. On a full count pitch to the first batter he faced, Wasden hit Andres Galarraga on the shoulder. Both players exchanged words, Galarraga charged the mound, and chaos ensued. Here's the full sequence again. Galarraga gets hit, starts walking towards first, where Wasden starts shouting at the first baseman. Galarraga then charged the mound and threw some punches at the pitcher. Who was at fault here? Depends who you ask. One Atlanta newspaper states that Wasden instigated Galarraga, while Buddy Bell thought otherwise. He said, "If Galarraga's going to instigate, he's the one who should be thrown out of the game. What's Wasden supposed to do? Run out to left field?" Galarraga himself was quoted saying, "He started talking garbage. That's why I had to jump on him. I had to fight. I don't know why he started talking. I don't know what the guy's thinking." On one hand, Wasden was the one who started yelling, but on the other hand, Galarraga did charge the mound. Wasden's pitch didn't seem intentional to me, so I'll let you decide who was at fault. Either way, both players, as well as Buddy Bell, were ejected, and it left the Rockies in a predicament. You see, John Wasden was the last relief pitcher Colorado had in their bullpen. The Rockies carried 12 pitchers on their roster at the time of this game, 7 relievers and 5 starters, and for some reason, Bell decided to use all 7 relievers. I ought to mention that of the 7 relief pitchers used, 4 of them threw no more than 12 pitches. Brilliant pitching strategy by Buddy Bell. Anyway, the team had 2 options. Turn to one of their 4 remaining starting pitchers, or turn to a position player. To add insult to injury, the team also used several members of their bench, leaving only 2 position players left. At first, they turned to a member of the rotation. Brian Bohannon came in to pitch in spite of the fact that he was the starting pitcher the previous day. On August 21st, Bohannon threw 99 pitches across 6 innings, taking the loss. 24 hours later, he took the mound again. I have no idea how to check this, But I would love to know if this is the most recent time a pitcher made an appearance on 0 days rest where he threw at least 6 innings the previous game. Bohannon would walk the first batter he faced, but got Javi Lopez to fly out to deep left field for the third and final out. In the bottom half of the 11th, the Rockies did not score, and so the game was heading to the 12th inning with a big question mark on who would pitch for Colorado. Starting pitcher Pedro Astacio was waiting in the bullpen, but the Rockies decided to put a position player on the mound, 32-year-old catcher Brent Mayne. Mayne played 15 seasons in Major League Baseball from 1990 to 2004, and this was his first and only pitching appearance of his career. Ironically, since the Braves' pitcher spot was due up to bat, and they didn't want to use the last player on their bench, the team sent out starting pitcher Tom Glavine to pinch hit. Yes, a catcher was about to pitch to a starting pitcher pinch hitting. Mayne got Glavine to ground out to start the inning, and the next batter, Walt Weiss, flew out to center field. 2 quick outs here, but the third one wouldn't be easy. Rafael Furcal would single up the middle, and the next batter would walk to put 2 on for Chipper Jones. Before continuing, I need to give you an idea of the situation at hand. On the mound for the Rockies is a 32-year-old veteran that had never pitched at any level in professional baseball. At bat was one of the top hitters in the league at the time. Jones was batting .309 entering this game and was already 3 for 6 with a home run. Chipper Jones had over 10,600 plate appearances in his career, and I don't think it's an exaggeration to say this is probably the easiest one he's had on paper. Of course, baseball is baseball, and do you want to know what happens here? Chipper Jones hits a slow check swing grounder to third and was promptly thrown out. Brent Mayne, against some of the top hitters in the league at Coors Field during the peak of the steroid era, managed to throw a scoreless inning. In the bottom of the 12th, Nathy Perez led off with a single, and following him was the man we followed earlier in the video, Todd Helton. Helton was 0 for 3 on the day, but swung on the first pitch from John Rocker and singled to right field. That hit kept Helton's season average at .397, and now the winning run was at third base with nobody out. At bat now is Jeffrey Hammond, who hit the ball to center field, but it was right at Andrew Jones playing extremely shallow, and Perez had a hold at third base. Following that, Rocker was taken out, and Atlanta brought in relief pitcher Stan Belinda. In his first batter faced, Belinda got Terry Shumpert to strike out on 3 pitches for the second out of the inning. Winning run still at third. Following Shumpert was Jeff Cirillo, who was intentionally walked to load the bases. Why did the Braves intentionally walk him? Mayne's spot in the lineup was on deck, and the last position player the Rockies had on the bench, Adam Melhuse, came out to pinch hit for him. Now, here's the thing about Adam Melhuse. Other than the fact that he was the emergency catcher for the Rockies, this was his 7th career plate appearance, and he was 0 for 6 entering this game. Think about what's at hand for a second. A very inexperienced player was the last hope for Colorado this inning. Should he fail to drive in the winning run, Melhuse himself might have to trek out to the mound to pitch. To prevail here, he would need to do something he's never done before: get a hit at the major league level. Well, that's the thing about baseball. You just never know who will turn up in big moments.
Base hit, the ball game's over.
In an absolute thriller of a game that featured a 5-run comeback, benches clearing brawl, and a player's first career hit being a walk-off, the biggest story was Brent Mayne. A catcher was the winning pitcher, only being called on to pitch as an emergency last resort. Thanks to the current rules, it's something we may not see for a very, very long time.